My name is Chris Henderson. I'm the Executive Director of the Treaty Land Entitlement Committee in Manitoba, and we're here to talk about the Manitoba Framework Agreement on Treaty Land Entitlement, which was signed 18 years ago on May 29, 1997. And we're obviously challenging the federal party leaders to some very specific, bold commitments should they form government come October 19, 2015, in about 6 weeks away. And you have in your press kits the news release as well as copies of the open letter that were sent to the party leaders at their party headquarters in Ottawa. And in terms of the list of speakers, Chief Nelson Janai from Sapatoya Cree Nation will be speaking immediately following me. He's the president of the TLE committee. And after him, Chief Morris Swan Shanakapo from Rolling River First Nation will be making a statement as well. And after that, if the other board members wish to speak, they certainly will make a statement, and they will identify themselves too for the record. So if you don't have a copy of the press kits, they're the green folder, and you can also take a copy of the Manitoba TLE Framework Agreements, which are also on the table. So we'll get started, and I'll call upon Chief Nelson Janai now. Thanks, Chris.
So good afternoon. No, Naskaman. Call me a Sept Naskaman. Good afternoon. You know, frustration is why I'm here. Frustration on implementing an outstanding legal obligation of land entitlement. 140 years has come by and still no land. 18 years has come by, still only halfway done. You know, it's up to these governments, the federal government, to give us that land which we said we would share. Give us that land or we're going to take it back. Today's the date, no more sharing is what I'm saying. I'm going to urge my members of my community to step up to the table and say, who are we going to support this coming election? You know, as I promised my people, we have to get involved with the election. We have to get involved with who we want in power. So today's the opportunity. And I'm going to be telling my people specifically who to vote for. And I'm going to urge them, this is one item we need to be settled, which is outstanding TLE obligation land entitlement. So come October, you know, Sapatoya is going to be at the polls. Treaty Land Entitlement Committee members, the First Nations we service, they're going to be at the polls. We're going to make it known they need to fulfill this outstanding promise of treaty land entitlement. So I say that in a good way. We're going to support a party that's going to get the job done. So I'm going to ask my fellow chief from Treaty 4, Chief Morris Shanakapo, to explain and to voice his concern of his area. Hey, Chief.
Thank you, Chief Nelson, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Chief Morris Swan Shanakapo from the Rolling River First Nation. We've been engaged in a lot of talks with federal government and also the provincial government, pointing fingers at each other. At one time, we had requested a watchdog to look at where our files were to see if they were at the provincial level or the federal level. A very simple duty that I feel in from our people's mandate, of this table's mandate, to be able to get the job done. It takes about 10 years for reserve land right bordering our reserve kitty corner to our First Nation that hasn't been turned to reserve title yet. Our elders have a lot of questions. They ask, why is it that our treaty partners can buy land and use it the very next day, or to be able to create a business on it in a week or 2 weeks later? We're held back about 10 to 15 years at times in using our land that we have purchased. The amount of money that our community received is $10 million. To purchase 46,000 acres. We still have 36,000 acres to purchase, and with about 1.6 million to be able to do that. And at the time the agreement was designed and made, we were told you should be able to purchase your land anywhere from $190 to $240 an acre. There's not one acre of land that we didn't pay over $500 for. And as soon as the residents in our area found out that we received money, they had their meetings and said, double your prices on the land. So we were paying anywhere from $500 to $600 an acre. Right outside Winnipeg here, we want to develop an economic zone for our community. We are a Schedule B band. Schedule B meaning that we can purchase land from any seller a willing seller from a willing buyer, which is, of course, the Treaty Land Entitlement people. And with this, we're able to develop economic zones, and there's certainly some good projects underway here in Winnipeg itself. We have Long Plains that have purchased some land on Madison, and that land is working for them extremely well. We have Swan Lake that purchased land in Headingley, as my reserve did. We purchased 78.7 acres in Headingley, and we would love to put it to work. We would love to make our own money. In our band funding alone, we received $3.5 million. I know we could probably do $3 million annually just based on that land alone if it were turned to reserve title. In saying that, we're also asked the government, maybe not for compensation, but we're looking at our tables. And, and what we're saying at our table is, what about loss of use? Who's going to cover that? Do we have to take this government to court and say there is loss of use? On that piece of land that I mentioned, 78.7 acres, we could probably get about $3 million for sure activity on there, just on tobacco and fuel alone. And we know that that's the going rate in other territories that has 10 million traffic count, and that's what the #1 highway has. We look at Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan has great projects underway with Treaty Land Entitlement. Prince Albert, the amount of work that they're doing there, the casino gaming. Pardon me. Also in Brandon, we have 560 acres in Brandon that we share with 2 other reserves, Kijiguinen and also Wewejigabo. And we decided to partner with them to purchase land so that they would have a benefit too. We are all related down that parkland area, and those are our brothers and our sisters and our cousins. So we'd like to engage in business. And there's a lot of business ideas that are coming up. But again, it's been sitting there vacant as agricultural territory that we're leasing out. But what we want to put on there, again, is businesses, to be able to turn that land to make some money. It's a resource. Land is a great resource, and the creator is not making any more of it. So we need to use our land, work diligently, and pick out the best lands that we can that are going to work for our people so that we don't have to rely on what is called taxpayers' money. That is what federal government tells the people. So us too in Rolling River, we have a polling station that we will be setting up, and we will be encouraging our people to vote. And why we're making this press release today is to try and attract the attention of the federal governments, the ones that are running, to see who can say the best work, who can make the best promises. And again, this treaty land entitlement work is a promise, as Chief Nelson Janai said, 144 years old. And when they made the commitment back to say to give back some of the lands to be able to work for us, it's our desire to purchase the best land that we can. Again, just outside here, Winnipeg, here in Headingley, we paid $40,000 an acre, and that's a far cry from 290 tops. I want to thank you for being here, and there's other leaders that also want to speak. Miigwech.
Good afternoon. My name is Chief Irvin Sinclair. I'm from Bunnabonabe Cree Nation. I speak on for my isolated community and for the other isolated communities in northern Manitoba. I'm just here to say that this press conference is a challenge to all the governments, provincial and federal, and all the leaders that are running, all the candidates that are running. It's time we stop this nonsense. It's time that we start moving forward with this process. It's their own policies and procedures that are holding up our progress as First Nations. There's strategies in place that we need to move on that will help us in economic development. So I'm just here to say, whoever's running, keep us in mind, because we want to get this over and done with. We want to move forward with our lives. We want to move forward with our plans. And that's all I have to say.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Chief. I'm a councillor from Broken Head Ojibwe Nation. I also am part of the Schedule B bands. Just for a quick history lesson, the Schedule B bands are actually in an area where there is no provincial crown lands that are available, and that's the reason why we have to purchase lands. All of our lands are focused on economic development, and I just want to point out that Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, South Beach Casino sits within our territory and our reserve, and it's an indicator of economic development and how we give back to the economy of Manitoba, not only in relations to jobs and opportunities for individuals that are regular Manitoba taxpayers, but also in what we contribute back from our revenues from the VLT operations and the casino operations that go right back into the pockets of the Manitobans. With that, I say miigwech.
Hi, I'm Trustee Craig Audie. I'm from Wisquacy Beak First Nation. I think the loss of use is a major issue, like for our First Nations. Like we've got lands and stuff, and we can't use them. So like, what is the next step from here? Like, you know, we have to get our lands signed over to our people so that we can start developing them and start making money. Thank you.
Thank you, Chiefs, Councillor Chief and TLE Trustee Craig Audie. And once again, just to reiterate, the TLE Committee is calling upon all party leaders to make a prime ministerial commitment, if they are elected to be Prime Minister on October 19, to complete the implementation of this framework agreement within 10 years. And they can do that by making the following commitments: dedicate more dollars for surveys, establish firm timelines and penalties if need be, and also to consider renegotiating the terms of this framework agreement by including loss of use in terms of lost economic development opportunities, and to also utilize existing federal legislation to set lands apart as reserve faster. So that's what we're asking for. And you have copies of the open letters to the federal party leaders that was sent earlier today. So with that, I will now turn it to you if you have questions for specific chiefs or members of the board.
Nelson, have you had any immediate response yet?
Immediate response in regards to Land Entitlement Committee, nothing as of yet. But for Sept Cree Nation, there's been one party that's been very proactive. You know, it's a party that I don't want to tell you who it is, but if you look under the shirt, you know, these are the people that tend to be more proactive. So when you look at a party who's willing, there's one party that's waiting.
When do you hope to get an official response from the four parties?
Preferably ASAP, as we said before. 140 years treaties were signed. Halfway done out of 1.1 million acres. That's a sad cry.
Any other questions? And if you'd like to perhaps